Hello and welcome to Two Girls in the Pod. I'm Sharon.
I am Christy.
Hello, hello, hello. Hope all of you are doing well. Little technical difficulties here, but we got it all under control.
Yep.
Oh, let's see. Today,
What are we talking about? We're talking about the ways that we love one another.
Yeah. And I think, why I think this is fascinating to me is because the 5 love languages. I'm telling you, it's a great book. That's not what I'm, but people take that so literally. Sometimes as a therapist, it's difficult for me.
Yeah.
I understand what the book is saying and all of that, but I think sometimes when we do stuff like that, we limit ourselves. I think that there are so many ways to show how we love people, and those ways can vary from person to person.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And even from situation to situation, I think.
Relationships are different.
Yes, they are. But, I think that we've talked about that, how does somebody know that you love them? And I think sometimes it's kind of an interesting thing because, when I would teach parenting class, I always found it fascinating that when I would ask that question, how do your children know you love them? The women, well, I hug them and I tell them and I play with them, or, they would, men, well, I fix the bike, I air up the tire, I, make sure that there's plenty of money. Do you see what I mean? And each one, I think, truly was loving their children.
Exactly.
Do you see what I mean?
And you do the best that you can. And I think that that's what they're doing when they're, doing stuff like that. I mean, my dad was a workaholic growing up, and he was doing his best and providing for his family. And that was definitely the way that he showed love. And I mean, not the only way. I'm really grateful that my dad was really, he was connected with me. And so it's not like he was disengaged, even though he was working a lot.
And I have to say the same thing for my dad. Sometimes he would be out there playing, he would shoot hoops with us. He would do different things.
Mm-hmm.
You know what? My dad was not one to say, I love you. But that came, at with time that came. And, after that, I don't remember my dad ever hanging up the phone without saying, I love you.
We've always been a family that has always done that. We've always said, I love you. And I know there are families out there that don't.
And not that they don't love each other.
Right.
It's just not part of how they express it or whatever. And it's not that any way is the wrong way.
Right.
But I think sometimes people might feel like they're loving the wrong way or something. I don't know. But I think the bigger thing is sometimes we will say, I love you, but there has to be a behavior that follows.
Mm-hmm.
There has to be something that matches up with it. And I think that's sometimes where I see that breakdown.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you can feel when there's an incongruency in what somebody's saying and how they're treating you.
And it's the other thing that's interesting to me is in all these years, I've been a therapist where people will sit there and say, well, I don't know how to do that. And sometimes they marry into a family and it's like, why y'all, they don't do the touchy-feely. They don't, all of those things.
Mm-hmm.
They just don't do.
And there are some cultures that, they base that idea of, it's about love, but that's about supporting an entire family. Sometimes you have extended families that live together and they think that, traditionally this is how you show your love, is that you basically, share that whole responsibility of everything. And so that's different than even what you see a lot of times here in the US.
Well, I think the other thing that's really funny is I have a friend from Japan, and as a Christmas gift, I gave her a thing to call her mom for the holiday. And so she does. And I'm listening to her talk and I'm thinking, I wonder if they're mad at each other because the tones or whatever. So when she gets off the phone, I says, well, did you tell your mom you loved her? And she looks at me, she goes, no, because they don't have to. It's very respectful. They know that. It's just a different thing. And I was like, oh, interesting. Maybe look, I was a lot younger then. I didn't know as many things I did. But it was fascinating. And I find, even looking culturally and stuff like that, our culture determines some of that stuff. There's a lot of different things that go into that. And, even when you marry into different cultures, how that expression of love is. Sometimes it's through food.
Yeah.
You know, they love you because they're cooking for you.
In the South, that's for sure what they try to do.
I think that's in the Latin culture too.
Yeah, they definitely try to love people up by overfeeding them.
Really, aquí está comida. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
what you need. More food. But you know, I mean, it's all of those things. But the thing that I find that people talk to me the most about when it comes to love is this person says that they love me, but I don't feel that, or I don't see it, or I don't, or it's like, I really love when you touch me like that. And then they promptly go and do something different.
Mm.
It's like, I don't get it. I don't, but this is something that's been it's kind of interesting because it's been kind of a little thing with my clients for about maybe a month. I'll use that. But that's interesting to me because it's like, how do you know? You know, and then like some parents, well, geez, I don't even feel like my teens love me, man. They don't even talk to me. And I always remind them, it's not that they stop loving you, it's that they're growth in that and they're into their finding their identity and all of those other things that are relevant and important to them. So I think that's a huge thing because we look at the behaviors and we make them about us.
Take them all
Well,
personally.
And I have my clients do the 4 agreements. Don't take things personally. Don't make assumptions. Do your best and speak your truth and do your best. Basically say what you mean and mean what you say.
Right.
And if I'm not taking it and I'm not making an assumption, if somebody doesn't react or respond, that doesn't mean they don't love me.
Mm-hmm.
And if I don't feel that, if I'm not feeling that love, how can I get comfortable to ask or to say, I need you to do this or I need you to do that? But then some people with the love languages, I love that. Well, you know, my love is gifting.
Yeah.
And then followed by the other one saying, well, you know, my love is physical touch. Oh, yeah, but that's not my love language. You know, they're sort of like, okay, you know, we're a little more diverse than that. Y'all, we can move around in these love languages. But sometimes people don't understand that the love languages, I think, were just a definition of the different types of love, not that it's not been made to take literally it in that aspect. It's to say these are different forms of showing love, and people might fall into one category more than the other, but it's not that I'm only one.
Yeah, definitely not one dimensional. I've never read the book, but I think that it sounds like that. I mean, I would guess that the message would be that you would really, maybe this is where you really shine,
Mhm.
but not that that's the only way that
Not
you
the only
show.
place you can shine.
Yeah.
But I think that maybe it's because people struggle with that. And, you know, sometimes it's how do we develop into the loving person that we are and how we express that love, I think is part of our upbringing. It's I think there's some of that's intrinsic to us as well.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But I think that thing of how do I show love? Because I hear this, I really want my spouse my wife or my husband to do this because that's that's how I feel loved, but they only do this, but they, you know, and I'm there like, okay, but I understand that's how you feel love, but is it the only way you're capable of feeling love?
Mm-hmm.
And we get stuck.
One of the key things I think, it always goes back to communication.
Mhm.
And, you know, if you're not getting what you feel like that you need to be able to at least communicate to that person.
And I think to be able to be aware of and be present with people. And so what I mean by that is if I'm being present with people and I'm listening, you can figure out what's important to them. So if we have a friend who gifting is really her way of saying I love you because she's very consciously aware of it or whatever, and you just see it in her and you see it and you feel it when she gives it to you.
Yeah.
But if I'm sitting there thinking, I really would like for her to tell me she loved me, or whatever that is, I'm not going to feel it. I'm so in here that I'm not paying attention to here to what I'm really experiencing in that exchange.
Yeah. Sometimes we have such an idea of what we think love should look like or whatever, and we are not realizing some of the things that other person is doing is that's what they're trying to convey, but we're not receiving the message because of what our idea is.
That no preconceived idea or perspective on what love is,
Yeah.
and I think that the beauty of love is we have the capacity to love in so many different ways, and we love people differently.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? And there's so many degrees and layers of it, which I think is wonderful, and people love their children different than they love their spouse. We love our friends. We love our acquaintances, just in general, we just love differently, and we don't show that love the same way to everybody because of the degree of intimacy and all of that goes into it.
And there's a lot of people that have some convoluted ideas about like what love should look like, or there's like jealousy or things like that. They think that somehow they're not feeling the love because they feel like that you're putting more, I don't know.
Or it's, I'm jealous, so that's how you know I love you.
Yeah.
And I mean, love is, and I always tell people when I talk about this with them, I always remind them that, and I even, when I'm talking even about relationships, I always tell them a relationship is a gift, and it becomes our responsibility to nurture that gift.
Mhm.
And when somebody loves us, it is not ownership.
Right.
We don't own those people.
And we've talked about that in a previous episode, attachment versus love. And I think that a lot of people do get completely confused about that. They don't realize that piece, that jealousy, things like that come from this idea that we have some kind of ownership.
Well, and I think it comes from a lack of,
Mhm.
when I lack, and sometimes it's that thing of trying to lack that ability to express, communicate.
Mhm.
I think is really what it is because we get into this place of, I want to show you that I love you. And to do that, I'm going to take away everything else that you have, and you're going to become my whole world. That
Is dangerous.
Well, it's not only dangerous, it's not healthy.
It's not healthy. That's why it's dangerous.
But that person, I think, really does believe in their head that is love. But once again, what were they showing? How was that conveyed?
Mhm.
And a lot of times I think we see that more as insecurities in people. People get insecure, they feel insecure about what's going on, or I think it's like, maybe it's more that they don't know how to, maybe they don't feel like they're worthy of love in a way.
That's exactly what I was going to say, is that I think that most of the time it comes back to those insecurities come back to, I'm not worthy to receive that kind of love, or, and I don't think that's a forefront thought in their
Mhm.
mind. It's just sometimes when you see people, I feel like trying to manipulate something or that to elicit the response that they want, I feel like it comes from that insecurity. That is a place of suffering.
I really feel like at the end of the day, everybody wants to feel loved.
Yeah.
Everybody wants to feel, but I am telling you, it is so weird to me when I am doing my job and I tell people, and we're talking about self-love and stuff, what a struggle it is for them to say they love themselves. It's bizarre to me. They really struggle with that piece of it.
Yes.
They struggle with, how can I love myself? And if I can't, if I'm at a place where I can't even love myself and I can't even say to myself, I love myself, it's sad to me. And it really is, because we should embrace who we are and we should have that self-love, because when we have that once again radiates out to other people. And then we have this capacity to love in a very different way.
Exactly.
When we talk about love, I think it's such a powerful emotion. It has such a power to it. The energy of love is so amazing and is so grand,
And there's so many ways to express it. I had recently posted a meme on Two Girls in a Pod on Facebook. Please follow it. You may not be able to change the entire world, but you can release your love and watch it. Its vibrant colors paint the world around you with kindness and patience, and watch your little part of it change for the better. And I think that that's really what it comes down to. I mean, when we express love, no matter how we do it, it comes back to us, and we see it play out in our lives in a different way. And by the way, that little saying was by somebody. I can't see her name. But anyway, definitely look it up on Facebook.
But I think the thing is, and even when I'm talking to people and they're talking about all the stuff going on in the world or this, that, or the other, I always tell them the way we bring about change starts in our own home. How do we love in our home? How do we love and nurture that love? How do we love and nurture people? And then from our home, it goes out into our community, and then it goes out into the world. There was that song, all we need is love. But I think there's something about that. I think not when we love people and we're able to express that, and there is such a vibration to it.
Exactly.
That's
vibrating higher.
Yes. It's sad when people get stuck in, this is my way of loving, and you've got to accept my way of loving, and I'm doing that, and they're forcing. No, love is a feeling. And when we love, I really do believe people will experience that. They will feel that, not by what we do, not by gifting, sometimes not by the hug, not by that, because sometimes I feel like people know that love from you, even when you're not touching or you're not talking, or it could be anything like that. So that tells you the power of the energy of that love.
Yeah.
But we keep getting confused on it. And once again, we keep listening to all these other ideas, and, you love them by you go out and you work hard, it's not about, you're a man. It's not about you telling them or showing them or doing that, you do this. And so people get into this thing. And with the woman is, you put, what, when you love your children, all that, and your husband, they come first. You wait to buy those shoes. Who cares that your toes have been showing for a month? Do you see what I mean?
Yeah.
No,
we have some really toxic ideas sometimes about how to express love.
Absolutely. And because of that toxicity around it, it doesn't just impact the person who has those ideas. It affects the people that they're engaging with.
Yeah. And it becomes an example to, even like with your children. I mean, how you express that love to one another, it's truly through example that they learn about that and what that means. What does it mean to love somebody? What does that look like?
And, even as we're talking, as you're listening to this, take a moment and think, those people in my life who I really feel that, what is that exchange happening? Is it only when they're doing gifting or touch or, affirmations, or is it that, or are you truly feeling it because you're actually open and engaged with it? We're not present. Even if somebody is telling this person, I love you, they're not hearing it, they're not expressing it, they're not feeling it. So how do we change that is through the things that we do.
Yeah.
And we only can do that through behaviors. Sometimes our behaviors are going to express that. But the thing that we need to do is remember that even within that, we cannot take on somebody else's. We have to be true and authentic to ourselves. And if we're true and authentic to ourselves in that area of love, I feel like that will radiate with the people around us. Do you see what I mean? But if we're not doing that, we're going to get caught up in loving people with somebody else's ideas. And if we're loving people with other people's ideas, we're not being our authentic self. And sometimes I feel like people would rather love the way they want to, but they get so caught up in the ideas of others. And I'm going to use men for a minute. If I sit there and say, be mushy, then I'm not manly. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think you'd be mushy and manly at the same time. What do you think?
Mushy and manly.
But I don't think it's mushy. I think that becomes the thing, or that's a weakness, or that.
That's the stereotype. And I really feel like that we need to get past that and realize the expression of love, no matter how it's done, as long as it's healthy, I don't think you should see it as a weakness.
Exactly. Oh my God, what a strong statement. Love should not be ever viewed as a weakness.
Exactly.
But oftentimes I think what we do is we do view those things as a weakness or whatever, and it's not. It is our strength, our ability to love people and ourselves. I feel it's our greatest strength. And I feel like we continue to get caught up. And I say we because I think we're all guilty of it at some point, is we get caught up in other people's ideas or perceptions or all of those things. And we just get lost.
Mhm.
And I feel like we can get unlost, but it's that journey. It's that thing. It's truly being in that moment. And I always love doing couples counseling. And I had this couple of many years ago, and we were working on this. And when they would argue, then they would just go separate.
Mhm.
She goes, but when I'm mad at him, she goes, it's not like I don't love him. And I says, but how does he know that? She kind of sat there. I says, do you stop talking? Well, yeah. I says, well, maybe do something different. And so she comes back the next week. They had a little spat, and she was kind of excited. And they're like, what is this about? You know? And she goes, oh my God. She goes, my husband and I had a little spat. And she said, I was a little ticked off at him. She says, but then when I was walking, I went into the laundry room, whatever, and she was doing stuff. And when she came back, he was just sitting at the kitchen table. And she says, I was walking by, I looked at him, I thought, my God, I love that man. And I do appreciate the fact that he works really hard. I said, did you say that? She goes, I'm not there yet. I said, okay. She goes, no, but what I did do is as I walked behind him, I just reached over and she hugged him from behind. She just hugged him, didn't say anything, and left. And she says, I really do believe in that moment that he knew that I still loved him.
Yeah.
But we argue, we fight, and people go, oh, don't love me anymore. No.
Hopefully it's not that easily, to say, hey.
But once again, I think that does happen though, and people get afraid of that. If, parents, if I set boundaries, my kids aren't going to love me. They're not, no, we don't. I don't believe we stop loving that quickly. It's not that shallow.
I think that it's a really big misconception for parents with kids because they are so fearful of setting boundaries sometimes with them and thinking that it's gonna hurt their feelings or whatever, and that they're gonna like hold a grudge or something. I don't know, but I think that having that structure and setting those kind of boundaries, you're doing the ultimate by preparing them for the world ahead of them.
And that, I think, is a true expression of love.
Yes, you are helping them to build that resilience and the stuff that they're going to face when it's not mom and dad. So I think that's huge. That is a huge component of saying, I love you.
And, shout out to parents, because I
Yeah.
think as parents, you have the toughest job in the world.
Mhm. The most important, valuable one, I think.
Yes. And not only that, the way a parent loves their children. And it's not all parents, but I do believe it is a huge majority of parents. I worked for DHS for a while, as a therapist and that, but there's some, but I think even then people are doing the best they can with whatever skills they have. And sometimes they're just really fucked up skills.
Sometimes they don't
That's,
have them.
yeah. And not by it. Sometimes, whatever.
Mhm.
It's still not an excuse. But what I'm saying is, for parents, I really feel that they do love their children, and there's such a fear around losing that love, just as for a child, their fear of losing a parent's love.
And I think that it's really important that they realize too that You hear that saying a lot of times from parents that say, do as I say and not as I do. But you have to realize what an impact and impression you make with the things that you do. You do set an example. I mean, kids are always watching and listening.
And you know what? One of the things is, and I feel very blessed with the parents I had. I say it all the time. I feel very blessed. I really do feel like each and every one of their children felt loved. I feel like they showed that in many, many ways. And because we could feel that, I feel that that has helped me in my ability to show the people that I care about that I love them.
Mhm.
And there's no embarrassment or that, going up to friends saying I love you, all of those kind of things, because there shouldn't be. But we get stuck on these ideas that we can't change how we love. And yes, we can.
Mhm.
We can change it. We can express it differently. We can work on making the way what we say match with the behaviors.
Mhm.
That is so important. Once again, with the child, you can't say those things, do as I say, not as I do, because they are looking at you.
Yes.
They emulate what they see. So if you start from birth with them, teaching them the value of love, the capacity to love not only others, but themselves. It's not about, it starts with you. How do you love yourself in order to love others?
Mhm.
Because if I'm loving everybody, but I don't care about myself, then that's just a travesty to me,
Yes.
you know?
Mhm.
So it's about working on how do we say those things, but how do we make it match? And how do we not get stuck in this ideology of I love only this way or that way, or if somebody does this, that means love, but if they do this, that doesn't mean love. We have to communicate that. I think that's the biggest thing is how do we communicate? How do we let people know that we love them? But how do we also let people know when you do that, I'm not feeling love, but when you do this, I do feel love.
Mhm.
I think that's such a huge thing because how many times in my office I have heard people say, I don't feel loved.
Right.
I don't feel loved. I don't feel appreciated. I don't feel like they understand how much I love them.
Yeah.
And when I ask, what do you do to show that? They will have examples, but they are not behaviors that will necessarily tie that in.
Mhm.
So that's what I work with them on. I know you love your children. I can feel it from you.
Right.
But you going to work, you fixing the bike, that's not the same as saying, I love you. That's not the same for a child as playing with them or engaging with them or those things or spouse. It doesn't matter. There has to be an engagement.
Yeah, especially for kids, they don't comprehend that. They haven't gained those skills yet to understand why this is happening on the backside, why you're fixing the bike or whatever it is that you're doing. Yes, you do
You're
it
fixing it
you love
because
them.
it's your job.
Yeah, they don't. That's all they know. They think you're the parent. Why wouldn't you?
You don't let me use the tools.
So
You love your
yeah.
tools more than me. No, but seriously, and that's what I'm saying. And I think that's the main thing of this whole podcast is it's okay to love. Love is not a weakness. The more that we love, I think that the more rich our lives really are.
How do I love thee? Let me count the ways.
And what's the rest?
I don't even know.
That was good though. But yeah, but that's what I mean. It's to not get caught up in one specific way or feel that you're only capable of loving one way. Understanding that we're much more diverse than that.
Mhm.
Listening, actively listen to the people that you love. And when they're telling you what they need as far as that goes, listen and then actively engage in that.
Mhm.
And if you're not feeling that, then have a conversation with somebody,
Yeah.
whoever that is. Have that conversation. And then if they don't listen, then that's a whole other episode.
And so even sometimes, maybe they're not straight out communicating to you specifically how you should show your love, but you pay attention to the things that they like and realize the interests that they have, and even just showing some interest in things that they are interested in. That's one way to express love.
Yeah, we love that you listen to us. That is a form that really is. And once again, there's so many layers. And so we would really love for you to follow us or subscribe. And you can do that on.
Yes, and we have the website, which is twogirlsinapod.com. We are on YouTube now, Adventures of Two Girls in a Pod, and you can subscribe there. Also, we are on Facebook, Instagram, and wherever you listen to your podcasts.
We
Please
are
follow
there.
us.
Follow us, subscribe, do all that fun stuff. But most importantly, go out there and, man, spread the love. That's what we need to do. Spread the love. We will be back next week. Thank you so much.